And I'm Caleb Friesen, your host. I have two guests that are going to be joining me later on that have worked on an incredible AI model that is state of the art on G mains, the very popular common Indian exam. And so they're going to be coming on in just a little bit. I'm going to run through a couple of news items that have happened here in India in the last 24 hours. And then I'm going to bring them on and we're going to talk about this AI model, Aryabhata 1.0. Okay, so first, let's get into some of the other news that happened. First of all, this company iTuring has raised $5 million in their Series A. This is a Bengaluru-based company. It's an AI/ML platform for banks and also insurers. And again, they raised $5 million. This was led by Dallas Venture Capital as well as Mela Ventures. And the company has already raised $1.19 million from Sense AI and Pentalon Ventures as well in the past. And so this company's raised millions of dollars. What are they actually planning to do with this money? Well, this capital is going to speed up the rollout of their zero code platform that automates data science and machine learning deployment for BFSI clients. And for people who don't know, BFSI is the banking, financial services, and insurance sector. So the company was actually founded in 2018 by Suman Singh, Amit Kumar, Mohammed Nawaz, and Srivalsi Ponachat, sorry. And what these guys are doing is streamlining the entire AI/ML lifecycle for this industry, from data prep to feature engineering, model deployment, and also monitoring as well. So the goal here, according to the CEO, Suman Singh, is that they want to help financial institutions to automate model deployment and governance with a transparent audit-ready solution. And the firm serves clients in India, also South Africa, and of course, the United States. So that's the first news item that I wanted to share with you all that happened in just the last 24 hours. Another one here, though, that was also quite interesting in the space tech sector is this company Inbound Aerospace. So they have raised $1 million in their seed round. And what they're working on is pretty interesting. So this is an IIT Madras incubated company, and they've raised $1 million in their pre-seed round led by Special Invest. And another participating investor was Piper Serica. So what this company actually allows their clients to do is they're building a spacecraft platform that utilizes the unique microgravity environment of space to manufacture revolutionary products. You might have heard about this concept of space manufacturing, where you are actually able to manufacture products in space that you probably would have a harder time manufacturing on Earth. It's not impossible to simulate a microgravity environment on Earth, but it's obviously way easier to do so in space. But the hard part is getting everything up there and then bringing it back down. If you're manufacturing something, then you have to take all of these raw materials, send them up into space, then have this spacecraft, this platform that has the capability of actually turning those raw ingredients into the thing that you're trying to manufacture. And then the other challenge is bringing it all back down to Earth safely in such a way that whatever it is that you built isn't damaged or affected in any way by the re-entry process. And so some of the things that you can build in space that are either not possible on Earth or are harder to pull off on Earth are wide band gap semiconductors for power electronics, high purity protein crystals for pharmaceuticals, scaffold-free 3D bioprinting. So if you're bioprinting, for example, organs or something, right, then they're these tissues and these organs, they're very sensitive. And so something like gravity is going to have a major impact. And especially if they're sort of tall as far as organs are concerned, right? They, like, for example, if you're trying to manufacture a heart, for example, right? That's a pretty tall thing to build. And so there's all this weight that ends up sort of squishing the heart. Whereas if you're building a heart in space, if you're manufacturing a synthetic heart in space, you're not going to have that problem, right? Because the heart is just sort of floating in microgravity. You've also got protein-based artificial retinas and also wider bandwidth fiber optics as well. Fiber optic cables, I guess something about the process here on Earth makes it so that they can't actually be that wide, whereas you can make them much wider up in space. And so this is a real industry that a lot of companies are excited about right now because of the unique manufacturing abilities that are unlocked by doing it up in space. And so this company, Inbound Aerospace, which by the way, I think the name is this play on this concept of inbound, right? That it's been manufactured up in space and now it's coming back down to Earth. It's inbound. And so, yeah, they are assisting their customers in producing these innovative products in space and then helping them bring them back down to Earth. So they're actually working on this recoverable spacecraft platform that enables their customers to conduct in-orbit technology demonstrations. I think a lot of companies at this stage, it's not full-scale manufacturing, it's just demonstrating what's possible in microgravity. But still, this is something that a lot of companies are spending millions and millions of dollars on. And so Inbound Aerospace wants to be a part of that journey. So the focus here with the capital that they've raised, they want to use it to fund R&D on autonomous, reusable, re-entry spacecraft. That's something that they're yet to build, so they want to get started on that piece. It's just part of the vision at this point. They also want to validate subsystems and also achieve key design milestones as well. And the company was founded very recently, this year in 2025. And the startup is building these re-entry vehicles at this stage at IIT Madras. That's what they're working on. And the technology is aiming to basically fill this gap, which currently there aren't really that many companies that are able to provide this microgravity vehicle spacecraft as a service. It's still very early days for this industry. And also too, the ISS, right? Which is up in space right now, is nearing decommissioning. 2030 is when the ISS is going to be decommissioned. And so at that point, there will need to be a bunch of private players that are coming in and offering these alternatives to the ISS. And of course, microgravity is very hard to recreate on Earth. It's also quite expensive. I'm not sure what the difference is between replicating microgravity here on Earth versus the cost of sending things up and down into space. But as we know, space keeps getting cheaper and cheaper and more accessible with each passing year. And so I think the idea here is that eventually, even if it's not right now the case, eventually in the future, it will become cheap enough or cheaper actually to send things up into space and manufacture them there rather than doing it in a similar environment here on Earth. And so there's also this policy, I'm not sure how many of you heard of it, Bio 3E. This is a policy here in India that is trying to promote part of this industry. And there's growing interest right now in space-enabled pharmaceuticals and biotech as drivers that could make this re-entry vehicle a key part of the commercial process of making all this happen. Okay, so now I want to switch gears. Let's talk about Aryabata 1.0. And so I'm going to bring in Ritvik here. He's from PhysicsWallah. He's a data scientist at PhysicsWallah, specifically this new department, AI, the AI research department at PhysicsWallah. And I'm also going to bring on Sachin. He is the CEO and also the founder of Athena Agent, which is the company that's actually helping to make this happen. And so these two companies, PhysicsWallah and Athena Agent, are collaborating to create this model, or they have created this model, Aryabata 1.0. I'm not sure if I'm saying the name of the model correctly. I hope I am. But yeah, so a little bit about Sachin first. Your company, Sachin, Athena Agent, trains production-grade AI agents that solve mission-critical challenges for global enterprises, companies like, for example, PhysicsWallah. And you've also been an RL research engineer for almost 10 years now. And also going through your LinkedIn, I saw that you're a serial entrepreneur. You've started multiple AI companies over the years, which is always great to see. Even during the pre-ChatGPT era, right? You were very busy building in this AI space, and then Ritvik, you of course, like I said, you're over there at PhysicsWallah, a data scientist, and specifically working in this new department. I'll ask the first question for Ritvik. How long has this department at PhysicsWallah, this AI research program or department, how long has it existed for? Is it a relatively new program?
Yeah, it's relatively very new. So I joined PhysicsWallah in last year June, and around I think the next month, like in July, there was this Kaggle AI Maths Olympiad. So that competition kind of kickstarted this thing because matlab, we got inspired that okay, we can also build something like this. We have tremendous amount of data, and it will be a testament of the quality of data that we have that is created by our teachers and all the subject matter experts at Physics Wala. So if we can build something that can eventually help solving the doubts of our students, because PW has like lakhs of students in these classes, and we want and from the starting we wanted it to open source so that the community can build around it, or even if somebody wants to collaborate, we were happy to join their hands and bring this forward.
Makes sense. Okay, and then Sachin, when did this happen? When did the conversation with PhysicsWalla start? Were you already in touch with folks at PhysicsWalla prior to this, or did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? What's the story there?
Yeah, so like I think the story reaches back to Paras Chopra. He had started this lab, Lost Funk, and I had given a talk about training reasoning models over there. I think Ritvik saw the talk and he reached out. Like Ritvik and his manager Sandeep, like who has been amazing. They both reached out to me that okay, like we have been trying to solve this problem, and like this is how we are approaching, and these are the difficulties we are facing. And it was not supposed to be a collaboration. I was building something complete entirely different. So we just started to talk, and like we unofficially collaborated in the beginning, where like Ritvik was driving the entire effort and I was just in the back end, like suggesting and like appreciating the quality and the amount of data set they have, and like the work which they were doing. And I think in like maybe 2 weeks time it became clear to both of us that this hands off approach where like is not going to work, and the problem is too exciting for me to resist. So then like I think start of March we made this formal partnership, and like I started to, me and my team, to be honest, like it's not a like it might sound like a work of one person, but it is not. Like lot of people have, like it takes a village to like get something like this going. And this me and my team started at the like I think start of March to work on this.
Okay, so start of March. So it's been several months now then that you all have been
Yes.
working pretty much exclusively on this model. This has been the primary focus for both of you, right? Athena
Yes.
Agent, as well as the AI research department at PhysicsWalla. Ritvik, is this the first AI model that PhysicsWalla has ever created?
Yeah, this is actually the first one.
Okay.
And yeah, go.
I was just going to ask, like, what is I guess, from the outside looking in, if I think about this from a student's standpoint, why would I use something like Aryabhata 1.0 versus just, going to whatever LLM I have access to, right? Whether it's Gemini, whether it's ChatGPT, or any of these other models that are also solid at answering questions about maths.
Right. So, as I mentioned, like this started off as building upon our set of the questions that we have, and those are particularly exam focused. All these existing models are mostly generic in nature, and so yeah, that was kind of the motivation. And when we started this off, even last year, right? So the state of the art was GPT-4o, and that was performing, I think, around 45-ish% on JEE mains. And the best open source model at that time was Quinn, which was, I think, around 42 or something like that. So that was the initial motivation to build this. And as the time progressed, the goalpost kept on shifting. So with the advent of O1, though it was able to reach, I think, around 70-ish% accuracy, but it was most of the times getting stuck in infinite loops. It was taken forever to generate these answers, and also the thinking trace was not available. So that eventually was not helpful for any of the students. Then this whole open source revolution started with the advent of R1. They open sourced the recipe to how to build this thing, and the same problem was there with R1. It was taking hell lot of time, around 20-30 minutes to generate just one answer. Even though all the reason trajectories were available, but those were not useful for a student because that was lot of backtracking. That, oh wait, I made some mistake. Let me revisit this. So that kind of confuses the student because once he is using it to clarify his doubts, he starts following the wrong trajectory, and then he has to backtrack. So yeah, these were the certain limitations that kept on. motivating us.
Also, Caleb, if I may add one thing, which Ritvik is too modest to say, that like they have some incredible products even in production today, something like AI Guru and a bunch of them. And like again, this is my from external outside guess, and Ritvik can confirm this, but I think they have few million requests helping students every day. So like this is the scale at which they are already solving these problems.
Yeah. So currently, it's mostly our ad-based approach that is grounded on NCERT books, and but that does not solve the maths problem. So yeah, that's how we like started with maths as a starting point, and then we have other numerical subjects like physics and chemistry in the pipeline, and uh, I would say the broader vision is to not just stick with LLMs, but also integrate VLM so that we can solve diagram-based questions where there is a significant gap, even for the Gemini or models like O4 Mini. They still have a lot of accuracy gap that we aim to fulfill.
Yeah, and so earlier you were talking about how, for example, GPT-4o performs on just general G questions, right? That it was getting something in the, what did you say? Was it 40 something percent?
Yeah, it's something around 42 or 45, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
Which is very different from what you all have achieved with Aryabhata 1.0. This is a 7 billion parameter casual decoder model optimized for specifically these G mathematics questions, but it's delivering 86% accuracy on the January 2025 session and then 90.2% on the April 2025 session. So are there other models that are able to pull off these kinds of numbers? Like, for example, very advanced reasoning models created by other AI companies that you're aware of?
Yeah, closed source models are in the similar range. O4 Mini is in the similar range. Gemini is in the similar range. But none of the open source models are in this range. And even in terms of token efficiency, uh, our models will be solving these problems within 2K budget, whereas any open source model is not this accurate and it will take around 8K budget in general.
Caleb, I think your screen froze. Caleb, I think you're on mute.
You're on it.
Sorry about that. I think I got disconnected there. So yeah, we were talking about the performance of this model, and I think Ritvik, you were talking about specifically how there are other models that are able to pull this off, but they're probably much larger models that
Yeah,
require a lot more inference, right?
right. So yeah, so Gemini and O4 Mini are in the same range, but as I mentioned, that O4 Mini does not give the entire reasoning traces, and even with Gemini, there is a lot of backtracking. So that is not that helpful for a student to get their doubts solved. And also from a business standpoint, our model will be much cheaper for us to use, and we can scale it up. Uh, in terms of latency, it is also better for us because we have like lakhs of requests daily.
Yeah, makes sense. If you have that much inbound interest, then you need a model that can supply the answers that the students actually need without breaking the bank, right? I think
Right.
a lot of these international AI companies, especially companies based in the States that are running reasoning models, oftentimes they're operating those models at a loss, right? It's just very
Right.
expensive to run these models. There's GPUs that are melting. And so they're just raising, millions and millions, billions of dollars to keep the whole thing going. Whereas I think physics, well, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure if you're even able to comment on whether this initiative is it profitable or loss making. But I would imagine, based on everything I've heard, it's probably something that is part of a sustainable business plan that Physics wants to offer this model to their students without it kind of negatively impacting the company's financials.
Right, right. So, like, we are not monetizing it as any special service. All these doubt solvers come along with the courses that the students enroll in. But on the other hand, it is sustainable and not burning any holes in the
Has
balance sheet of the
Aryabhata
school.
1.0, has it already been productized, or this is just sort of like a proof of concept, and then maybe the 2.0 model will actually be implemented in Physics Well's products?
So right now we are figuring it out if we can productionize it because there will be certain changes required in the existing AI workflow because this is specifically for maths. So yeah, we are in progress of doing that.
Okay. So I'd love to know more about how this whole thing actually happened. How does one build such a model? What was the process? What was the methodology? And maybe Sachin, if you could share a little bit more information about that journey of actually building Aryabhata 1.0.
Sure, Caleb, but I think like let Ritvik start first because he started this initiative. He can take us along the journey, and then I can chime in like around March time when I got involved and like what all we did.
Sure thing.
So yeah, so as I mentioned, like that AIMO Kaggle competition sparked this whole initiative, and so around that, the winner of that competition was a team by Hugging Face and Numina, and they had created a model that uses programming to solve this. Like Python programming was there to solve the um, questions of the competition. So there was like more of a conflict that we need chain of thought kind of reasons to make it helpful for the students because our motive is not to just to get benchmarks and accuracies on benchmarks. We have to make it helpful for the students. So like a lot of conflict was there whether we should build a programming first model and then maybe some wrapper around it to just use those programs and generate a COT, something like that. So yeah, initial days were like that, and then as time progressed, we decided that we'll do a COT first in, approach, and we started fetching the data from our data sets, and we started building this whole data set. And I think around November, December, we had like a data set of around 130K, 120K or 130K around question and solutions. And the solutions that time were generated through the lectures of the teachers. And yeah, we use GPT-4o to convert those lecture transcripts into chain of thoughts. And that's how we created this data set. And
You would take the transcript from the lesson and then use that to generate questions, like questions that an AI had about the lecture, and then training on those questions. Is it, or am I getting it wrong? Was it the
no,
students who were writing the
so
questions?
we have like we have a question bank of questions. Then we have the YouTube videos where the teacher has explained that question to the classroom. So we utilize the lecture transcripts of that particular question and use GPT-4o to create the transcripts to transform the transcripts into a chain of thought. And we started out of building on top of Coin using this dataset, but we are not able to get that good of a result. And that's when I started reading through the literature, and then I found out like we need millions of data in to follow this kind of approach because this is like introducing a shift in the capability of the model. That's when I started relying more on rejection sampling than distilling. And around that same time, I think I had started talking with Sachin just to discuss like what approach I'm following, and just very informal discussions. We are still not in partnership, and that's where Sachin told me about this paper by Kimi K1.5, and that's they had tried an approach of model merging. So I experimented with that approach, and that kind of built the foundation for Aryabhata. So I merged three models, and that became the base model for us, and it also gave us a very good head start. Then I applied all those learnings that I had, rejection sampling and all those things. And so mainly the uh, magic recipe for me was rejection sampling and creating a curriculum and adjusting the learning rate accordingly so that I can break the threshold and move forward. And that's where I think I started reaching around 70, 75 in my initial runs, 70, 75% accuracy. And in the meantime, we had officially collaborated with Sachin, and then Sachin took the post forward through his RL magic and made it hit 90.
But already that's a pretty incredible result, right? In the sort of 70 percentile. The fact that this model was performing, I mean, this is way better than most of the leading global models out there. But then,
Right.
as you said, Sachin stepped in and kind of brought it up to 90. So tell me about that journey, Sachin.
Yes. Sure, Caleb. So, like, as we started to talk, like, it was extremely clear to me. This is a clearly like RLVR problem, reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards. And like, as I was talking with Ritvik, like, I realized the amount of data set which they had, and that like the problem was to be honest too challenging and too interesting to ignore. So even though initially like we were just jamming and talking about all the different experiments he can run and all of those things, like it became clear like kind of immediately that okay, we need to I would love to join this effort by these guys. So then like as I said, I was running a completely different company. I kind of wrapped that up pretty soon, hired bunch of like Twitter anons like Joey, Dumball, Chinmay, like all of these guys. I hired them from Discord and Twitter anons, like Twitter discussions. They all joined the team, and then we like took the data set from Ritvik. We kind of like did some amount of like curation, some amount of cleaning to make it uh, workable in the RLVR setting. Also, initially, we ran a lot of experiments with all the publicly available training libraries. But what we figured out was, unfortunately, the market for these publicly available training libraries is literally everyone on the earth. If you are a student running like training things on your laptop, or if you want to do something at a high scale run, the like they are trying to scatter everyone, and because of that, those libraries are good for prototyping. But if you want to build something like which we did at the scale of like Aryabhatta 1.0, like if we don't optimize our pipelines, it will take first of all forever, and it will burn a huge hole in physics wala's wallet. So we did not want to do that. So we uh, take like while exploring these things, we kind of wrote almost three different libraries to perform this sort of like RLVR optimization. Learned a lot about how to do inference optimizations, how to do training optimizations, and our like tech stack is now completely kind of like bespoke. We use VLLM for inference, deep speed for distributed training, and everything else is like pure PyTorch code, which is extremely optimized to run on like H100 machines which we had, and extremely optimized along the batch size and all of those things, hyperparameters which we were like needed to run these experiments on. And after we did that, like it took some amount of time, and like physics wala team has been completely supportive during this journey, because as I mentioned, from March till now it's been almost 5 months. And like we were running a lot of experiments, like most of them did not turn out to be good, but eventually we figured out a recipe which works very clearly on uh, extremely tiny COTs, because these are like 4K or like maximum 4K, and to be honest, most of them like solve the question within like 1.5 or 2K tokens,
Yeah.
and at like 7B parameters. So it took a lot of trial and error figuring out. And once we figured out the recipe, we just curated as big of a data set as we could, like cleaned it, made it like proper curriculum wise, that okay, where models drawbacks are and how should we like cover those things, and did a like long RLVR run. So it was lot of experiments and like lot of patient waiting, because the runs take especially long.
How long do they usually take?
Some of these runs, like some of these exploratory runs took 1 or 2 days. Like some good results came for a week long run, and the final run, which is our current checkpoint, took almost 35 to 40 days.
Wow. But now it does sound like you have this great foundation upon which to build future models, right? Like, for example, Aryabhata 2.0, or if there's anything else that comes in between 1 point something. And specifically, this is now for G mains mathematics, right? That's the focus. Does the model like unexpectedly do well on any other exams or any other benchmarks in this domain?
So the model works very well around this similar difficulty level. But if we like it works very well on GSM 8K and Math 500 kind of benchmarks. But if we go something very difficult like AIME or even JE Advanced or this IMO, then the model is not performing that good. But that being said, the model has generalized and it is outperforming its base model, which is Quen and GPT-4 on those AIMO and JE Advanced as well.
Also, like, if I may add, when Ritvik suggested that we should benchmark across, I was personally terrified. I was like, we have not optimized for anything else. Our data set is completely JW specific. So I was really terrified. Okay, what's going to happen? I knew model was strong, but I had no idea how strong. Like the moment Ritvik and their team like figured out, okay, uh, we should run all of these harnesses and like get those benchmark numbers. And as those numbers started to come out, like we were all of us were kind of like pleasantly surprised that wow, like while building something good, like something, to be honest, I am proud of, like came out. Like I'm very happy for that.
That's actually like where we started feeling confident about this model because it is not something like which has been benchmarked or anything. It is actually generalized across all the different benchmarks and uh, yeah.
Is this something that like I didn't do G, right? I think a lot of it's an India specific exam, and so even for me, academics, I was never really oriented towards the exam part of it. I know a lot of students here in India are very focused on exams. That's a big part of the entire industry, is cracking exams and getting into the best colleges. But I'm just curious, like how would one, if this was like fully productized, how would a student actually interact with this model? Because I'm thinking about it from a student's perspective. Like, is the goal to compare the answer that you arrived at with the correct answer? Aren't those answers already out there? Like, is it? I'm just curious. How does one interact with a model like this beyond just trying it out and seeing that it's cool? Like, this obviously is meant for doubt solving. I think you were mentioning that, Ritvik. So help me understand, as a student, how would someone actually go about using a model like this?
So what we have generally observed in the currently deployed solution is students read some certain answer uh, about that question, and the book has the answer, but it is something else. Then student, I think, uses it as a double check whether his answer is correct or where he's going wrong by like uploading the picture of the question, and then we do an OCR and give it to the current pipeline. Uh, and uh, uh, and the student then compares with the AI answer and it uses its solution to analyze where did he went wrong, and that's how it helps a student right now.
if
Okay.
if I can add something, and again, now whatever I'm going to say is completely speculative. Like this is like physics wala's product roadmap, which I have literally zero knowledge about. My interaction is with research teams, so I don't know these things. But Caleb, like the future possibilities of this model are kind of going to be endless. Like doubt solving is one. Then like if we can like if they can able to figure out that okay, how to give small hints such that like we kind of like reward shape the student, that okay, rather than trying to one shot the answer by himself like entirely, how we like they can help students and master the underlying concept. Like so I think this is still a work in progress and I'm being completely speculative here, but I think they have some wild plans and I believe like they will figure things out. Like and like I think there is like day zero of like AI led education journey. Like these models are still like they're performing well, but they're still evolving fields. So like I think personalized education and all of those things are going to become possibility like real soon. Because if we remember, the chat GPT movement is not even 3 years ago, and since that time we have covered so much distance. So I think next 3 or 4 years, like the world is gonna look wild, and specifically in education domain, where like the democratization of education, which has already started, I think it's gonna reach new heights, and I'm pretty excited for that future.
Yeah, so am I. I have a kid. He's almost 2 years old, so it's not quite at that age of doing maths, although he does know one and two, but that's as far as he goes. It's just one, two, two, two. That's his understanding of maths. But I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking the quality of human teachers fluctuates, right? It depends on even their age and their energy level on a given day, right? Maybe they're feeling tired or maybe they're feeling energized, right? It really depends. So there's this huge spectrum of the quality of education that you get from a real person. And for me, I think the challenge with maths growing up was that I never had the teacher who was able to explain it to me in the way that my brain works. You know, my brain is much more oriented towards the creative side and maybe the conversational side, whereas oftentimes maths is shown on a board, but it's all just like numbers, right? And so it's not really described in a way that makes sense to my brain. So it would be incredibly valuable if there were AI models that were specifically trained not just on being accurate on, for example, G mains, but actually able to teach how to get better at these questions and get better at doing this exam, not so much from a question to question standpoint, but more so on like how to think well, how to think well as a student, and how to think in such a way that you are well equipped to tackle any kind of problem that might come up during the exam. So for me, that's, I mean, I don't know, it's obviously still early days. Aryabhata 1.0 is, largely just a proof of concept here from my understanding, but, potentially future models down the road in this model family could actually end up being, the thing that I needed when I was a student, learning and failing at maths.
Rather, to be honest, that was motivation for I think both of us, but at least for me,
Yeah.
because I have given JEE. I couldn't crack it. So I'm like, okay, can I teach a model to solve this? And I'm very happy that okay, whatever I couldn't do, I like my natural intelligence was a barrier, but this artificial intelligence would help someone like my version who is coming from a small town in India, and like billions of such people. So I was pretty excited about this problem for about this
Yeah.
problem for that reason.
And my excitement was like very similar. So I used to solve books like ID Sharma, uh, and the teachers that I had access to were not able to clarify my doubts. So yeah, that was kind of like inspiration. Like if a person comes from any tier two, tier three kind of city where he does not have access to great teachers, there should be one centralized AI that can, you know, provide democratized education for all the students. So like no student should be uh, limited by the what do you say, limited by access of the teachers or anything. Like education should be accessible for all.
There was one question that I saw on social media, and I was curious to know the answer to this. Are there plans to potentially open source the data set that was used to train this model, or like the methodology for more independent review? Because I saw this, Sachin, on X. You had posted about it. You wrote a thread that got a lot of people excited. But obviously, giving more direct access to all this data might be valuable also for other people who might want to build on top of this. So I'm just curious if that's something that's in the plans.
Right now, we do not have any such plans, but maybe somewhere down the road we might.
Sure. Now, one thing about this model is that it operates within a 2,000 token context window rather than, I think, what is common, right, which is 8,000 tokens. And that probably makes inference more affordable. It makes the model faster, I would imagine. But also, I'm guessing that there are some trade-offs. There's sort of, the limitations of the model might be more as a result of this in some regards. So what does this model lose by keeping the context window short?
So, like there are two things about this. So, maybe we have not tried much on JE Advanced, like or uh, on other difficult questions, and maybe that's where the model might require more of a context link. That being said, there have been multiple researches where people have shown that if you, they have generated like multiple chain of thoughts for the same question, and they have uh, calculated this that so most of the times the shortest chain of thought is actually the correct one, and the longer chain of thoughts are actually hallucinations. The model actually reaches the correct answer, and then it's like, oh wait, I might have made some mistake. Let me retry this, and then somehow goes to the incorrect answer. So what I would like to say is that it is yet to be experimented. What are the limitations of this 2K context window? And also, that being said, the context window that we have trained for is actually 4K. It's just that most of our questions are getting solved within a 2K budget. So, yeah, there is a scope for another 2K. So, yeah. So, for the further 2.0, we will be trying on more difficult questions and more difficult exams, Olympiads, JEE Advanced, and all those things.
Wow, that's interesting that actually it's performing. Oftentimes the performance improves when the context window is on the shorter side, rather than giving the model more tokens to work with. And then, as you said, it starts to kind of second guess itself, right? That
Yeah.
sort of conversation of wait, but, and then it goes in like a completely incorrect direction. But I'm guessing probably with more challenging exams like G Advanced, or maybe as you were saying, Amy, or any of these other tests, maybe actually it is important to have a larger context window, right? So that, you know, because the problems are just that complex. But I guess it'll be up to you all to figure out what is the optimal token window, right? Is it
Right.
2? Is it 8? Is it somewhere in between? There probably is an optimal window, and you just want to keep the limit at that rather than making it unnecessarily large.
Yeah, it's not like completely a research problem where we just have to reach the correct answer. It has to be useful and usable. It has to be very focused and what do you say? Like in the end, it should be able to be productionized. And
The next question I have is a little bit technical. But you guys were talking about how the training pipeline currently it's using this custom RLVR approach. And so I'm just curious, how do you design reward functions specifically for maths problems? And also, how do you safeguard against the model potentially exploiting loopholes in that reward system?
Do you want to go or should I go, Ritvik?
yeah, you
Yeah. Okay. So, this is like, so like we have a kind of like standard RLVR way of like assigning credit, where if the answer is correct, 1, when answer is wrong, 0. However, like JW has such a wide distribution of problems that identifying that answer, like whether this was a correct answer or not, has it becomes challenging. Also, when we try different base models for training, different base models have different distributions for generating the answers. So this specific problem becomes more and more challenging. Like we have a like layered pipeline to evaluate whether the answer was correct or not. Like we have a lot of like custom rules which kind of deterministically provide that, okay, whether this answer was like 100% correct. Suppose if it both of those numbers are float, we can just subtract them or do at close operation and we can get the answer. But for a complicated like equations and those things, we need to use like some sort of language model for giving this reward, that whether these two like this answer and this correct answer are the same or not. So like in some of our experiments, we found like on the most challenging data set, one run went like really beautifully up, and it was almost too perfect to this, and I was super excited after that. I'm like, amazing, like did we just solve something, and like some breakthrough just happened, because this was our most challenging like slice of the data set, and model learned very beautifully. So we went and checked the answers, and yes, as you mentioned, that sort of reward hacking was happening, where model was like figuring out, okay, how I can bypass all of these rules and always get the answer to 1. So like training, to be honest, training is easy. Ensuring these things are not happening, reading the logs, like ensuring the model training is going in the direction you want it to go. So that's the most, like, I think, hardest part, that you have to keep reading the logs. Like, I think if I had been slightly more attentive, I can give JEE exam now, because I have read so many question answers till now that my own personal learning should have happened, and it hasn't. That's my fault. I was just looking for discrepancies rather than having a curious mind and learning.
Yeah, on the next live stream, it's just going to be, I'm just going to give you the G exam and you just have to solve it. And people are going to watch you do that live.
Yes. Within 2K context?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll put it at 1K context just to make it more difficult. So we were talking earlier about potentially that, like, this, first of all, this model does, I think the Aryabhata 2.0 might cover physics and chemistry, right? That was one of the things that might be worked on in the future. I'm just curious, is there a timeline for this? Again, I know it's not even like productized yet, so it's not like there are students who are anxiously waiting for this option to be available to them. But I'm just curious, what do the timelines look like here? Also, is there a plan to potentially have a separate model that does NEET or G advanced? And yeah, I just love to know kind of what is on the physics wala side, what is the perspective on this? Because I'm sure that internally the response to this has been great now that Aryabhata 1.0 is finished. It's been trained. It's ready to go. It's now available also on Hugging Face as well. Like, now it's the question must be, what's next?
Yeah, so the timeline that we have in mind is, I think, around the year end. We'll try to get 2.0 up and running by December this year. And about covering different exams through different models, that is again experiment based problem. Like, if we are able to solve all these different exams in with just one model, that's very good. But if we are not able to do it with just one model, then we can try different approaches, like maybe creating different adapters for different subjects or different adapters for different exams, something like that we can come up with. So again, it is based on the results that we have while experiments.
And Sachin, I'm curious too, from your perspective, is this something you think Athena Agent is going to continue this collaboration, this partnership with Physics Wala into the future?
We are in the conversations, because like our this specific project is now over. We are in the conversations, and like I think we will like disclose those things soon. But at the same time, like at Athena Agent, we are at the same time now working with few other Indian enterprises as well. So the story behind Athena, like if I may, like the story or motivation
Please.
behind Athena Agent is like, I was working in, like, I did my master's in University of Massachusetts Amherst, where like reinforcement learning as a field started. I've worked in US for a couple of years, and like it was kind of clear to me that I wanted to come back and build something for India. So that's the reason I moved back to India almost 4.5 years ago now. And the goal behind Athena Agent is, I think we have this incredible technology which has been productionized by different valley giants for very specific, like, global problems. But at the same time, like the Indian companies and all of those things, unfortunately, like again, fortunately, things are changing. But at the same time, unfortunately, most of our like Indian companies, where they like Indian companies, Indian products, when they interface with Indian citizens, like the normal like residents. I'm so sorry, citizens. I'm not sure if you are citizen or not, so I should mention resident, because you are also like a very vibrant member of our community. So I should mention resident. That's my bad. So for like all of us, when we interact with all of these products and these things, today we do not use like the same level of AI sophistication which is usually present in like the global products. So we are working with multiple other enterprises also right now to ensure that like whatever this RL training or like model fine tuning pipeline uh, which we are in the process of perfecting, because I don't think we can ever perfect this thing. It is like a challenging problem, and we are all every day something new is getting discovered. So we just want to ensure that that research will get productionized across products in India. And this was a wonderful like first project to do, because it's gonna touch like millions of students every year. And like that's I'm very excited about that. But yeah, now we are working with multiple other enterprises as well.
What did I get it right when you were describing the story of Athena Agent initially at the beginning of this conversation, that it kind of started because of this Physics Walla project? Because I
Yes.
know before that you were working on Trojan Vectors. I think that was your previous company, and
Yes.
then in Feb of 2025, that's when you sort of shifted focus. And so, was that largely because of this Aryabhata 1.0 project?
Yes, yes, that was largely because of 1.0 project. And like I'm really grateful to Ritvik, Sandeep Verma, and entire like Physics Wala team that they decided to like solve this problem. They like hired me and my company to help them along this line. And like the problem was, to be honest, too interesting and too amazing to ignore. So yeah, like that's how this all started. Like that's how we as a company got the opportunity to work on something this. And like now we want to just keep building on that success, and like do as many, like touch as many products and touch as many like lives as possible.
I'm just thinking about this. As far as Indian LLMs are concerned, sorry, this is not an LLM; it's a small language model. But as far as language models are concerned, I think this may end up being one of the more widely utilized models amongst Indian people from an Indian company, right? Obviously, if you think about usage, probably whatever the default free version of ChatGPT is, I think it's running 4.0, 4.0 as the sort of default model for free users. That's probably the most popular model amongst people here in India. But if you think about it from an Indian model perspective, Aryabhata 1.0 may end up being like the most widely used Indian model by Indian people. Like this is just me guessing here, but like given the fact that Physics Walla has millions of students using its platform, right? Am I on the right track here, or are there other models that are secretly somehow made by Indian companies that are getting more usage than what Aryabhata 1.0 may end up receiving once it's productized?
Do you want to
Uh, yeah, look, I'm sincerely awaiting this. Like, if Aryabhata one gets that much amount of usage, and that being said, I actually am not aware if there is any India-based model that is being used at that much scale.
Right. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe there's like some AI model integrated into UPI, or maybe like I was using some AI model on the Indigo support website at one point, right? So there might be these random models that are actually just getting massive amounts of usage just by the fact that they're positioned in very popular products.
Hmm.
But how many kids are going through the sort of Physics Walla G training curriculum? Is that do you have that number off the top of your head, Ritvik?
No, not really. But I think it's in lakhs.
Yeah.
I might be
Okay.
hallucinating, but I think it is around 1.5 millions. But again, don't quote me on this. I might be completely hallucinating here.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I don't know. It's just interesting to think about, right? Because
Yeah.
um, I think about this often, that all of the models that I use on a regular basis are usually American, right? I think there was a brief spike back when DeepSeek dropped, and so then a lot of people were using these Chinese models. Um, but then largely it's like ChatGPT, it's Gemini. Some people use Claude. I have sort of stopped using Claude because I just wasn't happy with the experience. But there's a couple of these models, and then they're all American companies that are running them. And so this could end up becoming, again, like one of the biggest success stories. And I'm not trying to like hype it up. I'm not trying to like make it seem like a bigger deal than it is. I have no skin in the game here. But again, I'm just sort of thinking about other models that I'm aware of built by Indian firms, and I'm not aware of one that um, would have this much potential usage, right? There's just so many kids that are trying to crack G, and so it makes perfect sense that this would end up being extremely popular. And then later on too, if Aryabhata 2.0 comes along and it has even more utility, right? You're able to do all kinds of different things like physics and all, chemistry, then I think it becomes even more valuable for kids specifically. I don't know. It's very exciting to think about. I mean, the future of even education and the sort of overlap with AI. Like I was talking about earlier with my son, I'm thinking about it and I'm like, what is the value of sending a kid to school? And like, yeah, socializing is very important, right? I think that's probably one of the primary things that I would care about, right? But actually sitting them down in a classroom and to learn from one individual teacher, like somehow to me, the value of that experience is a lot less with each passing day that we move into this new AI era. Like in a way, I would actually prefer for my son to learn from an AI teacher because I know that that teacher is going to be consistently good and that teacher is going to be able to customize the teaching based on the success of my child, right? Like it'll be constantly measuring how my child is doing and then giving customized teaching to my child based on how they're performing, which is just not something that's really, you can't really offer that at scale with real people. Do you guys have any thoughts on where things are going in education with regards to AI? Anything that you're aware of, any developments that you think might influence the trajectory here?
I
I
am
think,
particular. Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I think like creating Socratic kind of AI tutors would be a really good thing because as you also mentioned that giving the student the answer to a doubt in one shot, instead of doing that, if we can trigger the student to think, to learn how to think to solve a problem, that would be something which I'm really looking forward for.
Andre Karpathy is doing something interesting in the same space, AI and education. He has started Eureka Labs, and I am personally eagerly waiting to see what like he puts out because in the ML community and this thing, like he's amazing researcher, hands down. But even apart from amazing researcher, I think he's one of the most like genuine educator who wants to just teach things. So I'm personally excited for that project and where that goes.
Okay, I'll check that out. Just before we wrap up, we have 2 more minutes. Any book recommendations that you would give to the audience here?
Yeah, I'll very much recommend the RLHF book by Nathan Lambert. So that helped me clear all the basics of RLHF. And it's a like 130 page book, so one can finish it in 1 week and get hands dirty on RLHF.
Perfect.
May I give
Sachin?
2 recommendations? If you want to learn RL, please read RL by Sutton and Barto. I think it's a Bible. It's incredible. It is not about deep reinforcement learning, but if you understand the basics of RL, like that's the book I would highly recommend. And second, slightly light-hearted book, I think everyone should read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a wonderful book.
I need to read that one. It's criminal that I haven't already.
You would
Thank you
love
so
it.
I
much.
want.
Thank you so much, Ritvik and Sachin, for
Thank
coming
you.
on and talking about Aryabhata 1.0. I look forward to seeing where this goes. I think I'll sort of mark this in my calendar, 24th of July, because it probably in a year or two, looking back, the impact that this initial proof of concept has had might, at that point, there might be some pretty big waves across the Indian education system. So kudos to both of you for making this thing happen, and wishing you the best of luck going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Caleb. This was like wonderful talking with you.
Yeah, likewise. All right, take care. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. This was, I believe, the 5th episode, the fifth live stream of Runtime. So if you're enjoying the show, please let us know. Please like and subscribe. But also, if you have any feedback for us, for me, just leave a comment down below wherever it is that you're watching this. I'd love to hear from you. I know we have gotten already a couple of comments. That's one of the reasons why I asked about the book recommendations, because one person had given that feedback that they'd love to know from the folks that we are having on as guests, what books they recommend reading. So I am paying attention to the feedback and I'd love to implement more of it. So please let us know. And yeah, tomorrow we will be coming on live once again at 11 a.m. India Standard Time this coming Friday. So tune in and I look forward to seeing you there.